Angie Fitco,
I'm here.
and Mychal Schulz.
I'm not there, but I'm here.
You're here. You're
Right.
there. You're there for me.
It really bothers me how you say his last name. I don't think it's right.
Schulz.
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 Right? Is it Schulz?
It is technically Schulz.
That's what I thought.
Schulz.
But that's takes just a little bit more effort than Schultz.
Yeah.
So I never say anything because in this day and age,
Yeah.
people just look for the easiest, laziest way to do things in general.
That would be me.
So I let it go.
I just, he says it all the time. And he'll I don't know, he'll say your name out loud and he'll say Schultz. And I'm like, what are you talking? Who's Mychal Schulz? He's like,
What he doesn't realize is I make him pay for that constantly because I take just a scooch more bourbon out of his bottles because I figure I'm owed it because he
It's
can't
a
pronounce
tax.
my last name.
exactly.
I will always pronounce his name correctly from here on out.
Schulz.
I need to be punished in order to remember things. So,
Who are you
I've been
wanting
punished.
punishment from, me or Mychal?
Well, you later, if we could do
Why
that.
would I
that
punish
be-
you for saying Michael's name wrong?
That's true. That's true. Let's just say that this whole conversation's been punishment enough.
As soon as you said punished, I had a flashback to, I think that was perhaps Nebraska's favorite search on Pornhub.
Oh, that's funny.
I think you're right. Yeah,
Nebraska.
probably.
Punishers.
It makes sense.
Well, I haven't done a podcast with Mychal Schulz in a long time because usually it's the boys when you're here.
It's usually the boys. It hasn't been for a while because Mychal Schulz got COVID-19.
I did. I'm not.
He
I'm
got
not shy about telling it.
vaccinated.
I got vaccinated, and unbeknownst to me, I had the virus in me at the time I got my first vaccination shot. And that evening, 2 hours after getting the vaccination shot, I actually had a rapid test that was negative. Two
Wow.
days later, I started to feel something, and I thought it was from the vaccination shot, all the symptoms that I read about. And so I merely went on my way for a few days until I thought, this isn't right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like putting the condom on after sex. A little late
Here we go.
with the.
I see your lips moving.
Here we go again. It has to relate.
But now you're good, or will that mess everything up?
No, because I received my second vaccination shot 2 days ago.
Okay, so you're good now. You cannot get it. But now they're coming out. I
So
heard
they say.
somebody said the other day, their pharmacist said there's going to be a booster coming out.
You know, it actually.
Who knows
all
what
depends
that
upon-
means?
It all depends upon the variant. Right now, the vaccination shots that are available in the United States are effective against the known variants, including the UK variant, which is what's in West Virginia now, and the Brazilian variant and the South African variant, which are the most prevalent. But I would not be surprised if at some point there is a variant that the available vaccines will need a booster to take care of it.
Do they not test you for the Rona before you get the vaccination? You're not tested?
No.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought that.
We're thinking about going on a vaccination date.
We're thinking about it.
Moderna or Pfizer, we don't know. We don't know. Definitely not Johnson & Johnson.
Oh, heck no.
Well, all right. You got me started. You got me started. 6 cases of blood clots among about 4 million
Yeah, that's not that many.
vaccination shots. You know what?
It's not bad.
That's not bad
I know,
at
but
all.
But
It's
how many
obviously
are
enough to
how many
pull it.
dead people are out there that died of blood clots that they don't know about?
Correct. I mean, guess what? Life is not guaranteed 100% anything.
It might have been to those people if they didn't get the Johnson & Johnson vaccination.
Well, perhaps, but they obviously had underlying conditions. Look, I'm not trying to denigrate those people who got the blood clots.
Me
but
neither.
man, and again, this is nothing against Pfizer and Moderna. I got the Moderna, but a 1 jab vaccination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Think about
It's a lot.
people, older people especially, who it's hard to come back a second time.
Mm-hmm.
Think about those in prisons you don't want to go into
Right.
any more than necessary. The 1 jab is so critical.
It's convenient.
I wanted
Cold
it.
is just
When it came out, I was like, that's the one I want.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go back
don't
in
know.
28 days and get another shot.
I don't wanna
just want to
debate-
get it done and be done with it.
I don't want to debate the vaccinations, but I mean, I don't know. I had the health department number on my computer to call, make our appointments, and then that happened with Johnson & Johnson. I was like, see, I just don't know what's going to come out about the other ones. I'm scared. But anyway, I still have the number on my computer. I'm just tired of people guilting me and making me feel like a certain type of way about it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I was in class. Well, I shouldn't talk much about it because I don't know. Anyway, I'm just tired of people like making you feel a certain type of way about it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But anyway,
Yeah.
so we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about. We're going to talk about paranormal activity. I think, right? Is that what we're talking about?
Paranoia. Yeah.
Ghosts.
He was singing that before we.
Ghosts.
Well, because
It's the Kinks.
The reason
Ray Davies and the Kinks.
I've never heard of them.
No,
Paranoia.
it's before my
I
time.
feel like I've heard that song when you were singing it a second ago, but I don't know. What did he say?
Just slightly before my time.
Just a scooch off your bourbon bottle, man.
Whoa.
Right.
Believe
Listen.
me, I am keeping tabs too. Mental notebook.
He's just gonna walk out. When he leaves tonight, he's just gonna walk out and grab a bottle.
He has, but what?
At this point, it's up to 102 scooches. Do you know how much 102 scooches
A
of your bourbon
scooch?
is?
Is that an actual thing? A
That's a
scooch?
lot.
It's a scooch.
That's the
It's a
thing. A
scooch.
scooch of bourbon.
Yeah,
Like, what is a scooch? What's that measurement?
a little bit less than a little bit.
That makes sense to me when you're talking bourbon.
So, is it the same term as like when you're like scooch over? Like, just scooch
Yeah,
over.
scooch over means just you
Yeah.
don't have
Just
to
a little bit.
get up and
Right,
move
just-
over
so it's the
5
same
feet,
kinda
just
thing.
scooch
yeah,
over.
I
it's
got you.
it's the when you're done pouring, you go
Oh,
a little extra drop in there,
okay.
right?
I got you.
Yeah.
I can't wait to have a scooch of anything on Tuesday.
Yeah,
Haven't had a
it's
scooch
coming.
of nothing but water. Anyway, so the reason we're talking about paranormal activity is because I don't know if podcasts ago, Jeff and I were debating it. You know how Jeff feels about it if you've listened. If not, he's not so much on board with the.
He's a skeptic.
He's a skeptic of the paranormal
I
activity.
love the stories, though. I
And
love paranormal stories.
Michael listened to that podcast and he said he had some input, so we said we'd have him back sometime and we'd like to talk about it.
Well, just that I think it's an interesting topic. I have to admit that back in the day, like 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I discovered, and it was very popular at the time, ghost hunters, the Roto-Rooter guys, and
Right.
then ghost adventurers.
Right, Jeff
And
hates all that.
Now there's a lot of them, and they kind of run the gamut from just blatant sensationalism
Sure.
to guys like the ghost hunters, I think, try to approach it fairly scientifically. As a result, these are not gripping shows because a lot of it is kind of boring background, setting
Right.
up scientific
Yeah.
equipment, and by the time you get to the end where all the juicy, the evidence is,
You're
You may
asleep.
have like 3-4 pieces of evidence.
Right.
They're pretty scanned. But they run the gamut. But I always find those kinds of shows fascinating.
I find them fascinating
We were
too.
going to watch it.
I know, but Jeff thinks it's all.
No,
a
I
hoax.
wanted to watch it. I didn't say I didn't want to watch it.
You said it's all a hoax. It's stupid.
It
it's all
is.
set up.
It is, but I still would like to watch it.
Oh,
I didn't say I wouldn't watch it.
It's
I would
all a
love to
hoax?
watch with you.
he says
and
it's all a
laugh.
hoax.
I think the shows are kind of it's entertainment. I mean, it's production. These guys never find anything. They've been run, like you said, 11 years. They never really. There's nothing good there.
How do you know you've never seen it?
I just know.
See
know.
how he does. See how he does. Headline reader.
I've done extensive research and
Bullshit.
studies.
You have
my
not.
own
So-
studies from Runyon
So
University.
That stink that I can smell is your omniscience?
Yes,
Is that what it is?
that's what it is. Yeah, you smell that?
That I smell your omniscience.
It reeks.
It reeks like
It reeks.
caca. Manure.
Okay, all right. Well, I
You
mean,
can't take a stance on a show that you haven't ever seen.
I've seen it.
You have.
When you fall asleep, you
okay.
don't know what I
You
watched.
say you've seen
I
it, but
watched-
yet you say I'd like to watch it, but you've already seen
No,
it.
I'd like to
so-
watch some newer seasons
Oh Lord, see how you twist it.
with you, my lovely wife, and we could hold hands while we do it. We could hold hands
I'm
and be
over it.
scared to death together. No popcorn because we'll probably spill it.
Oh my god. Anyway, I have seen the shows, and
I got
where
nothing.
I do think that maybe sometimes they're a little like, I've seen some that's kind of like chilling.
I'd rather hear firsthand experience.
Well, I have had
Stories.
firsthand experiences. We've already talked about it. Michael, have you had a firsthand experience?
With the paranormal?
Yeah.
With the paranormal,
Or-
as I sit here right now and think about it, there is only one thing there's one thing that comes to mind, one experience that I had that I cannot explain. And that is about 10 years ago, I was in a overnight lock-in
Okay.
at the Moundsville Penitentiary.
Oh.
The old penitentiary up in Moundsville, which is still there.
Now, why were you gonna was it one of those things like at Halloween where they do, or was it something else?
At the time, and they may still do it.
You served time, didn't you? And you were in
I-
a lock-in.
I did not.
I didn't
did
think so,
not.
but
But they have events. You can go, and it was actually a Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
We went up there, and we were locked in overnight on a Saturday.
Okay.
So we got there about 5. We learned about the history of the penitentiary. They served us pizza, and then we were locked in. And when I say we were locked in, meaning, and they took us on a tour to all the places, gave us the history of all the places within the penitentiary.
You weren't locked in a cell.
No.
Okay.
But we were locked on the grounds
Okay.
until 9 a.m. the next morning.
How many people do you think were with you?
I think there were about 20.
Okay.
I was with a group of 6, and there were probably about 20, 25 people.
Okay.
but Moundsville is an active prison, right?
It is not an active prison. It was an active prison until about 30 years ago. It is no longer. Mount Olive down in Fayette County is now the maximum security prison.
Okay. Well,
And the prison in Mount Olive took the place of the penitentiary in Moundsville because there was actually a lawsuit back in the 80s where the penitentiary is so decrepit and run down that there was a state judge said it was cruel and unusual punishment to keep people incarcerated in that facility.
Well,
Wow.
don't
And
they
that's-
deserve cruel and unusual punishment?
No, there's this thing called the Eighth Amendment.
I know that, but I'm just saying, in my mind, I'm like, okay, so they did something horrible. Let them. Anyway, that's another debate altogether.
Okay, yeah, we can have that debate at some point.
That's a whole nother debate.
So anyway,
yes.
Yeah.
This is getting exciting.
So anyway, during that lockdown, there was one point, and I don't even know what time it was, but it was in the middle of the night at some point. I decided to sit in a hallway where I had been down. It was actually a hallway that led to the cafeteria. The cafeteria is someplace where there's a whole lot of activity, allegedly. And so I just sat down in the hallway. I thought, I'm going to just listen. And above me in the building on the second floor where there were doctors' offices, like inmates who were sick and they were treated up there. And so I sat there quietly for a while, and then I heard footsteps go down the hallway above me. And again, I'm in a long, maybe 150-foot hallway, and I heard it was like somebody who was walking just along the hallway on top of me. And I thought, okay, it might be somebody who's looking in those doctor's offices up there. It was only later that I found out that in that hallway, there is no somebody above me. There is no second floor.
Ooh.
Actually, that second above that hallway is outside.
Oh, wow.
Behind me in the building is the second floor, but there's no indoor walkway on the second floor of this hallway. I clearly heard footsteps
Above you.
above me. Walk from my right to my left
Oh my
towards the
gosh.
cafeteria.
Because it's probably super quiet. I mean, it had to be incredibly
Correct.
quiet. Yeah.
It's very
In the
quiet.
middle of the night.
And I cannot explain that.
Yeah.
I cannot explain that. You know, we can talk all we want about how your senses can fool you, but I think I was fairly well. I mean, no drinking or anything.
Oh, sure,
I was
yeah.
clear-headed,
Yeah.
and I freaked out a little bit when I later learned that what I heard,
Yeah.
it wasn't somebody. It could not have been somebody.
Right, right.
It's not like I heard a noise.
Right.
I mean, I heard 15 seconds of footsteps start above me to the right, like at the beginning of the building,
Yeah.
and then fade off all the way to the left down the hallway.
That's crazy.
That'd be
So
weird.
I can't explain that.
Right. A lot of people have had experiences there. Because is this the same place they do Halloween, like lockdown?
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's not?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Is it?
They do it up at Weston.
Weston's what
Weston
I'm thinking.
as well, but
they
Weston's
also
where I'm
have-
thinking.
they-
The psychiatric place. the
Correct.
psychiatric-
I'm talking about the.
You're talking about a prison,
Moundsville
not
Yeah,
the
I'm talking about-
They
psychiatric.
also have
Yeah.
lockers,
Yeah, okay.
Halloween events and stuff.
What? One question. Was there mushrooms on the pizza? by
There were
chance?
no mushrooms on the
Okay,
pizza.
just making sure they didn't throw any psychedelics on you guys.
And the wild thing
where they
is, I mean,
locked
they
you.
took you back to where the inmates were in cells, and they're in the original condition. So I could go back and look. I have them stored on an external device. I took a bunch of pictures. Some of the art in these cells are creepy.
Oh, I bet.
Really?
I mean, like really creepy. And we were on the tour. They would say, okay, in this cell was Jeff Runyon. Jeff Runyon murdered 3 of his family, and would tell the story about the last inmate who occupied that cell.
That's crazy.
And
That'd be fascinating.
I wouldn't.
It was.
I would be
interesting.
fascinated to hear those stories.
No, I would be fine to go on the tour.
But you'd be fine to leave.
But you lock me in here, we're going to have a problem, sir. I don't want to stay. I want to leave. I don't need pizza. I'm
good.
I'm good. I don't want to eat here. I don't even want to go to the bathroom. I just want to be on the tour, and then I'm leaving. That's it.
It's very interesting.
Like my mind is like, I guess, like, I don't know, because I have had some instances happen to me. So I feel like sometimes those kind of things open up to people who, like I said before on the last podcast, we talked about this, whose minds are open to it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like it almost is like, if you're shut down to it, you can't experience it. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I'm asking for it. I'm not having seances and I'm not doing Ouija boards, but it's happened to me and I've seen it. So I definitely am high alert with it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think there's something to that. If you are more malleable in your thinking and you are open to accepting either alternative viewpoints or facts that don't fit rigidly within what your belief is, if you're open to consideration of facts that don't fit in your worldview or your belief system, then I think you can have experiences that cannot be explained.
I totally agree with that.
But I also believe, and I'm looking at you, Mr. Skeptic.
I'm just saying, when you do that, aren't you looking for confirmation? What's it called? Confirmation bias?
No.
Just like when you believe in something, you're always looking for whatever will support your belief system.
No,
or theory.
I don't think that's that at all. I think that I think that it. No, I don't think that at all. I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not being critical.
I do
I'm just
know what you're
saying,
but
for me, if I'm not thinking about it, or I don't like, if you and I go there and I have no thoughts of any paranormal thing and I hear that would be more jarring. I'd be like, okay, I don't really buy this stuff, and now now I've experienced it. So it's, you know what I mean? Then I'd have a tough time avoiding it, rather than going in thinking there might be some paranormal activity in here. Then you're kind of,
if you're going into a situation like where a prison may have been haunted, or like Weston, the psychiatric hospital that supposedly has it, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or like my parents went and stayed at this hotel. Where was it?
Oh, that's right. It was a haunted hotel.
Where was
they
that,
said it was
though?
haunted. Where was it?
And they actually stayed there.
Was it in Kentucky?
I don't remember.
And I've done that.
Yeah.
I've stayed in hotels that supposedly have haunted roofs. I did that in Monterey or in Napa, California. I did that. I did that in Chicago once.
So maybe when you go into situations like that, maybe where yes, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I never asked to see any of that. I never.
No,
asked
I know
to
that. I know in your situation you
it wasn't
didn't.
confirmation
And I'm not
bias
saying
for me at all.
his situation did. I'm just saying, in a whole, if you're someone that's really woo-woo type person.
Sure, but I'm
like
not a
psychic
woo-woo.
or like.
I'm not a woo-woo type person.
Right.
What's a woo-woo
I'm quoting him. I don't.
What's
I
a
know.
woo-woo?
Woo-woo.
The thing is that's sad is that I know what he's talking about because I've been with him for 30 years. Come up this Friday.
I actually think it's like a Thomas the Tank Engine memory coming out.
Yeah.
No, it's like a person who's out
it's like
there.
who's out there spiritually, like just really.
Witches and warlocks and psychics and fortune tellers and gypsies.
And just really into the whole like spirit world.
I just answered what a woo-woo person. So I get what you're saying, but I'm not a woo-woo person, and I feel like we're back to the other Mychal's podcast. We're like, hi.
Yeah, that was out of control.
Anyway,
so
yeah. But yeah, I see what you're saying, but mine was definitely not confirmation bias. And it doesn't happen to me frequently, but it has happened.
I just wigs me out if it's going to happen to you while I'm asleep over there. Let me in on it.
Be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll tell you, there are some movies that freak me out. And I remember, I never saw the movie, but I read the book Amityville Horror. I was in grade school. And let me tell you how much it freaked me out. I started it, and it's one of those books that's really well written because every chapter ends with like a cliffhanger that makes you want to start the next chapter. I started that book about 10 p.m. and I read all night, literally, because I was so freaked out. And when I finished it at about 4, 5 in the morning, I then went and I took a bath the rest until it was daylight again. It freaked me
serious?
out. I was in grade school.
You wanted to be in the bathtub when you were freaked out?
Yes, because
That's a perfect scene, Michael.
bathtubs are my safe place.
They're your
Really?
comfort zone.
Yes.
See,
We can
bathrooms-
psychoanalyze that later, but
Okay.
baths
Oh,
and
we
bathtubs
should-
are my safe place.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Stuff like that interests me. Because to me,
That
the
is
last place
interesting.
I want to be is a bathroom or bathtub. There's too many mirrors. And I don't want to be stuck in water. Did I say water? Like
Water.
Charlie?
Water.
I don't want to be stuck in water if I'm being confronted by something. That's interesting, though, to me.
It is interesting.
Well, I also grew up without a shower. We only
Oh.
had
So
a
you
bath.
had to take baths.
So to me, a bath was like the safe place.
Interesting. Even I don't even want to be in the shower. Sometimes I get really freaked out in the shower. I've watched too many horror movies.
But the last, what I'll call like horror movie that I went to was, again, probably 10 years ago, maybe actually 12 years ago, Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The first one that was really very good.
Mm-hmm.
And the end scene centers around a bedroom
Mm-hmm.
and a guy being dragged from a bed.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of confirmation for me.
Right.
When stuff's going down,
Yeah.
I don't want to be in a bedroom.
That's true. I
I
see what
do
you're
not
saying.
want to be in a bedroom. So sleep tight
It
tonight,
can
Jeff.
get you pulled under the
That's
water.
that's
Have you
since I
not-
was a kid. My safe place is if you know, because you have to go to sleep, but that's when you also get freaked out, right?
Right.
So as long as I'm completely covered in covers, I don't know why anybody can pull covers off you, right?
Right.
But for some reason, I'm totally calm when I'm totally covered, and still to this day, I just can't.
The only
It can be burning hot. I cannot go to sleep without covers.
if I'm freaked out, I get that though. I kind of do get that. If I'm freaked out though, nothing's gonna comfort me unless it's all the lights are on.
Wine.
If I had enough wine, nothing's gonna matter. But I'm just saying, I need to have like all the lights on, a TV. Like I need to have my phone. Like nothing's.
Normally, or if you're freaked out?
If I'm freaked out.
Oh.
If I'm freaked out.
So that's like a Tuesday in this household, right?
What do you mean?
Tuesday night?
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Nothing. I thought every Tuesday night the lights were on, the TV was on, as you're trying to get to sleep.
No, it is all the time. But I'm just saying, like, if my point is, if I'm laying in bed and I get freaked out, lights are going to go on. I'm going to sit up. I'm going to have everything on that I can. That's what would comfort me. Like a bathtub wouldn't.
You need
under the covers
activity. You need
wouldn't-
activity.
I
You need,
actually, I
like-
probably would go get in the car and I'd leave if I really was scared, to be honest. But anyway, what were we saying before? Oh, you're talking about scary movies, and I think that's where it all started.
That's
for
when
me.
you get run off the road though by whatever.
Especially when you have to pass the graveyard to get out of here.
That's right.
Okay, well, and let's go to that, okay? Because I'm not a skeptic. Am I a full-on believe that there are ghosts running around all over the place?
Right.
I wouldn't put myself at that end of the spectrum either.
Right, sure.
But what I do believe is there is a whole lot of stuff we don't understand.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
So I'd like to think I'm open-minded enough to know that, for instance, I don't think like gelatinous blood comes out of walls.
Nah, yeah.
No.
I don't believe that like a china cabinet suddenly opens and dishes go flying across the room and
That's
Do
on a timer.
lights come on?
Our lights just came on automatically. They're on a timer. Don't worry.
but the dishes are thrown across the wall and
timing.
shattered. I don't believe that
like
stuff.
stuff in like. Have you seen?
And that's Amityville Horror.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
what's the show I'm taking? Wait, no, the little girl I used to look like when I was little. Poltergeist.
Oh, poltergeist.
A poltergeist.
You don't believe in that kind of stuff? To an extent, I do. To an extent, I don't know if it's as violent as you think as you're saying. Like you know what I mean? Like China.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, like,
But I do believe there are things we don't understand.
yes.
And until, or I should say probably unless, because I don't think science can ever explain everything.
Right.
No.
Unless science can
Jeff does.
explain things,
I do not.
I do think there are things science can explain, and that they have to do with the spirit world.
Oh, 100%. I 100% agree with you.
I just think it's probably not ghosts, but it's probably aliens.
Don't get me started. We're still talking about my topic. We'll talk about yours.
I've seen a
in little
UFO.
bit.
I'm kidding.
He said he's seen a UFO.
I've seen a UFO.
Where have you seen a UFO?
I believe you.
Now,
There
this is
are
where we're
UFOs.
This is where we separate. This is where we flip the script. Like I'm way skeptic, and he is way into it.
Have you seen the released footage? The U.S. Navy.
Hang on.
The stuff
While
to
y'all are
Congress.
talking about this bullshit, I'm gonna go pee.
The U.S. Navy released footage when?
Well, you know that in the
Are you
last
talking about
release-
recently?
Yes.
Like in the last year?
No, within the last. What had to happen was with the new COVID bill that they passed, at the 180 day in, the government had to release. The Pentagon had to release any UFO information that was built into the bill.
Well, I know that I'm
And
thinking
they
it was
released-
within the last 2 years in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
The Royal Air Force had to release, either had to or voluntarily released footage. And maybe that served as kind of an impetus for people to say, all right, the United States military has got to give up what they know about UFOs.
Yes, that's what it was. Who knows what it is really? But you've seen a UFO?
I have. I'll save the story until
Okay,
Angie gets back.
okay.
But yes. And again, do I think that there are? I think Hollywood does a very creative job.
Sensationalizing.
Right. But yeah, what my mind cannot get around sometimes are numbers, distances, and time when it comes to astronomy.
Mm-hmm.
And by that I mean the distances we're talking, like from us to the nearest star outside of the sun,
Yeah.
and what 4.2 light years means.
Right.
And when you convert, 4.2 light years, 4.2 doesn't sound all that bad, but when you convert that into 186,000 miles per second,
Right.
60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, 3 seconds. That's a really long way.
It is
and
a
that's
really
the
long way.
nearest star.
Right.
So when you start looking at the distances to, if you look up in the sky and you see, stars in the sky, how far away that is, and then you realize that the Milky Way is in a finite space in the universe that's part of a larger cluster of universes, and it's a long way away from the center of the universe. And by the way, and this is always fascinates me, when you look up in the sky, you are actually looking thousands of years into the past. Like the light, you can look up in the sky, and the light that you see from stars up there left that star before Jesus was born.
Wow.
Right. Yeah. It's fascinating, the time elements when it comes to space.
I thought you said it was future.
No.
It's not future. it's
I
past.
did. I didn't know what I was talking about, though, at the time.
Hold on.
Whoa.
I want that sound clip. I want that sound clip.
Whoa. We are on 28 minutes and like 37 seconds.
Listen.
I'm
It's like
standing up right now. I'm blown away.
It's like the easy button, that big red easy button. From now on, you and I are going to have a little button every time Jeff opens his mouth
Listen.
with BS. We're going to
I need something.
we're going to push the button, and that sound clip is going to play.
Listen.
We can program it into one of these.
Yes. And we're just going to have that button to press every time.
Listen.
we
Did
start
you all
talking
hear
smack.
what he said?
Would you listen for a
He
minute?
said,
I knew there
I
was.
didn't know what I
I
was
got it
talking
mixed
about.
up with the future and the past, but I knew there was a time screw up somewhere. Like it's a warp into the future, past, whatever.
Future, past.
I just
high,
knew
low,
that it
fast,
wasn't
slow.
on our time. So yeah, I'm not great with the details, but we've established that.
But I
over
said, so you're
300
saying
and
they're
some-
futuristic. Anyway, Michael, go ahead with your story. I interrupted.
Hold up. You're not good with the details, such as the distinction between the past and the future?
Right. It's
No,
difficult.
Is that
I-
a detail in your life?
Is that something that's
When
hard
it
to
comes to-
understand?
How, just a super easy question. How do you function?
It's a mystery. Listen,
I mean, you're the embodiment of what the British say. You just muddle through, don't you?
I muddle through.
He's a headline reader.
Listen, I knew that I said it wrong to you.
I'd like the chicken parm. No, wait, I made a mistake. I want the Doritos. It's the same thing. I'm bad on details. My bad.
Poor Jeff.
What? Anyway.
sorry.
All right.
So-
all right.
so-
You guys continue. You can continue to beat on me
So
later, but let's get back to the
So
details.
distance and the time
right.
to go
It's
those
fascinating.
distances,
Yeah.
and then just the spatial, how big we're talking, how
It's
large.
insane.
It's really
and that's
hard
what
for
we can
my
measure.
brain to get around, and then come back to what we're talking about. Do you truly believe that in all of that space, with all that of 100 gajillion, bazillion, bamillion stars out there, with all of that matter, that this is the only planet that's capable of sustaining some form of life?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
So if
no
you
way.
accept that, then I clearly believe that there are unexplained things that happen, that the possibility you have to keep open, that it is something not of this world. Now, again, not Hollywood-like, but
then
maybe
with-
not something
but-
we can wrap our minds around.
But then everything you just said too, it makes you also doubt that in all that space, that it would ever come near us, that they would ever find, that anything could ever find Earth. You know what I mean?
Okay, so did you guys ever read? Have you ever heard of Madame Langle? Did your kids ever read Wrinkle
She
in
sounds
Time?
super hot.
No.
Wrinkle in
I
Time?
don't think so.
No, she's actually a children's book author, more like teens, preteens. And she wrote a book called, a series, and one of the most famous, Wrinkle in Time. They actually made it a movie probably about 7-8 years ago. Anyway, it had the best explanation of time. Because time is not even one-dimensional. Because one dimension, you can go back and forth.
Right.
And time is not even fully one-dimensional. And so the concept of wrinkle in time is if you take two points on a line to get from point A to point B, how long will that take? Well, it depends how fast you're going and the distance you have to go, right? But what if time was like a piece of yarn that you could take those 2 points and you can bring them together and skip having to go in between. Instead, you can go from point A to point B immediately, which means that you would immediately go into the future.
Which
to
Jeff is ahead
to
of.
a different
The future is ahead
That's
of
what I was
time.
talking about.
Okay.
This is what I was talking about.
Oh.
you can go to a distant spot in the future because you've skipped.
Right.
Think about that. Now that is fascinating. Is that possible? Well, what we do know, humans do know, is that the space-time continuum can bend because of gravity.
Right.
You can things actually can go faster than the speed of light when they are bent and sped up by gravity. Time actually can speed up and slow down depending upon gravity. This is scientific fact. So if once you establish that time can bend, it's not inflexible, but it actually can bend. Why do we delude ourselves into thinking that, well, you can't bend it enough, that you can't skip time and space to go from point A to point B?
Right.
Interesting.
I don't know.
Interesting.
It's way above my head.
Somebody's
Over
got
my
to figure that out.
We'll leave that
Well-
to you. Could you figure that out for us, please,
It's interesting.
sir?
All right, you're talking to me.
Yeah, could you figure that out? I'm looking at you.
Well, next Saturday. I'm going to be busy this week.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
You'll get right
One
on.
of the days he can actually have some bourbon.
Right.
That's right.
So
When I have a scooch.
Scooch.
So I'm sorry to go that deep, but I
That's what he says.
that
You already knew.
this episode brought by Mychal Scott
Yes.
and the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company. But that's why all of those things kind of accumulate over the years is why I do believe there are UFOs, simply because I believe there are things that we as human beings, we don't understand. And until science can explain a lot of things, it's unidentified. And the footage, I've seen the footage from the British military. You've seen the footage from the U.S. Navy.
Yes.
Explain it.
You can't.
Well, you can have theories.
Oh, I mean,
There's
tons
theories.
of theories.
Yeah,
but
there's
I mean,
tons of theories.
I think, again, it's the same thing as believing in the paranormal, if you really think that. I mean, like, I mean,
there's an element of faith. Yeah.
there has to be an element of faith that what you didn't just see was something else. You know what I mean? Did you really see that? What
Right.
substance are you on? Like, did you have mushrooms on your pizza? You know what I mean? Or I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't think that it's in the sense of like there's Martians in there and they're aliens
Right.
and they're going to come.
That's Hollywood.
But a lot of people think that.
That's Hollywood.
You think there were people on the UFOs? You told me that.
There could be.
I don't think so.
I don't think they're Martians, though. Is my point.
You think they're people like me and you?
They could be, yes, more like us than we think.
See,
They
I
could
don't
be,
believe in all that. I think that,
Or it could,
here's what
like
I
you
think,
said,
if
yeah.
you care. I don't know. I didn't get to weigh in on this UFO conversation. Here's all I think. I'm thinking. Yes, I think there could be what you all were saying, like life. I don't think that we are the only planet that
Right,
has.
we're
like,
not
living-
alone.
Probably not. I don't know for sure. I mean, I guess we could be, but I don't. I'm
or
with
we
you
could
guys
just
on
be in
that.
a
Like, I don't-
simulation.
Don't even start with your bullshit on simulations. I can't stand when we talk about stuff like that. Anyway, my point is, you know how we send.
He said stimulation.
This segment brought to you by Beavis and Butthead at their finest. Anyway,
Stimulation.
anyway, what was I saying? Oh, you know how we send like hovers over to different planets that we cannot even if we got out of any kind of any kind of spaceship or whatever they send. What are the astronauts flying?
Rockets.
Rocket ships.
Rocket ships. If we got off of this, we would die because of the environment of the planet or whatever. So we send over hovers, to take pictures and do that. Now, do I think that could be happening?
Drones, you mean?
Yeah, drones,
Satellites
or,
and
whatever they're
rovers.
called. I just studied this in 6th grade. I know what I'm talking about. It's called rovers. It's like a
the rovers.
it's like a rover. I think I said something else. but-
I follow
By
the
way,
rovers
there's a
on
rover
Instagram.
on the Martian soil right now. And
Yes.
Right.
just read this morning that they're getting ready to test the helicopter
Yeah.
that went up with the rover. That's fascinating.
I
Yeah.
did not know
So
about
do
the
I think-
helicopter.
Yeah,
That
the
is
helicopter.
fascinating.
Do I think that stuff like that might happen? Yeah, but I don't think it's anybody spying on us and doing anything weird. And it's like these UFOs, like, ooh, I don't think it's anything like that. That's just me. I think it's all Hollywood like. And I think that the government is like, I don't trust them. And, they could be listening. I could be in a lot of trouble.
They are listening.
I trust you. Just kidding. I love all of you. You want to come over for a spot of tea? But no, I mean, I think it's all. I say I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think I may be.
You are. You're a tricky one though.
I am a tricky one.
It's depending on what we're talking about.
I'm
Some things you're
very-
like, yeah, that's right, it works.
Right.
But then other things you're like, no,
Maybe I have a sixth sense.
maybe you do.
They're just not right when it comes to stuff like that. It's all a little fishy.
Who's they?
The wonderful people of our government.
They're not right about what?
I just think there's something else going on when they try to that's just weird to me. They're talking about UFOs. Why is this a topic? Why are we talking about this?
This is a topic because they're required by the law to release the photographs.
Yeah, I don't know.
And they call them, but okay, let's say you see a photograph taken from a commercial airliner.
Mm-hmm.
And the photograph has an object in it.
Right.
And even after extensive study, analyzation, computer runs,
So they say.
etc.,
Uh-huh.
well, you look at it, and
Oh,
you
I mean, it
can't
could
tell
be-
what it is.
It could be a light. It could be a reflection. It could be a reflection off of another plane. It could be somebody on the plane on their cell phone. It could be so many things.
So, it's an object.
That's not identifiable, so it's a UFO. That's what I told Jeff today.
It's unidentified.
I know, and I said the same
And
thing
if
today.
it's actually elevated, it's flying.
I told him the same thing. We were walking the carriage trail, and I said I could see a UFO because it's an unidentified flying object. Something can fall from the tree, and I don't know what it is, and it's flying. It's in the air right now. It's a UFO. Oh shit! I saw a UFO. You know what I mean?
You're just saying it might not. It could be a UFO, but not from another planet or from outer
It could be
space.
something that we don't know what it is, and it is unidentified, but it might not be from another planet. It could be who knows what? But it could be a paranormal activity. It could be a ghost flying by.
You're going to need to be abducted to believe in UFOs.
God, I hope they're hot. Please. I could be like Katy Perry in that song. Take me. You know that song?
Yes, yeah, with Kanye, yeah.
Yeah.
This segment brought to you by the most popular search in Utah, Mormon, on Pornhub. So, my UFO story.
Okay, yes. Oh, you didn't tell it. I didn't miss it.
No, I waited for you to
okay,
come back.
Okay, yes, go.
So, again, I was probably about 14, 15 years old, and I was on an airplane flying from Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Boston, Massachusetts. And that flight takes you by, or the flight path takes you kind of by Detroit, by Cleveland, by Niagara Falls, north of New York City into Boston. And I'm one of those geeks. I get out the magazines. I kind of look at the flight paths. I like to know what I'm seeing. And it was a nighttime flight.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see like a city, I like to know what it is, kind of keep track of where we are, what we're going. So we had passed over Lake Michigan. So we were over Michigan, as I later learned. And I look out and I see a light off of I'm on the left-hand side of the plane, and I see a light off the tip of the airplane wing. And at first I thought, I didn't know we're past Lake Michigan. Maybe it's a boat down on the lake because it's blackout. Mm-hmm. But then I noticed that light stays there. Then I think maybe it's fixed. Maybe there's something on the airplane wing, like at the end. Sometimes the planes have the bent up wingtip, and it wasn't that. And I just watched it, and I was fascinated by the fact that it was fixed. Mm-hmm. I mean, rock steady fixed. And then it started to move, and it moved primarily up and down, but it would sometimes move further away and then come back. And I'm like, this, and I just became engrossed with it, absolutely engrossed with it. Mm-hmm. And I watched it, and it became increasingly erratic with the movements, but incredibly fast. Mm-hmm. Like it would just shoot up and then shoot down. And I'm like, and I wasn't talking to him. I was just, my nose was pressed against the airplane window until finally it like sped away. And about a minute later, the pilot came on and said, off on the left, you'll see Buffalo, New York. And I was like, holy, this thing traveled from basically Lake Michigan to Buffalo, New York. Mm-hmm. Look on a map. That's a really long time. That couldn't have been a private plane. Mm-hmm. That couldn't have been, of course, this is a long time ago, before drones. That couldn't be the 101 things I was trying to figure out it could be to explain that away.
Right.
I can't explain it, but I know what I saw.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely know what I saw.
Yeah.
And the fact that it continued for that distance.
Yeah.
It was back when pilots would actually announce we're cities. They don't really do that much anymore. And that's what stuck with me. Like, this went from Lake Michigan to Buffalo, which is a long way and a long passage of time.
Right.
I can't explain it.
And a lot of erratic movements.
Way erratic.
It sounds like
super
super
fast.
The Tic Tac. Have you heard about that?
No.
The Tic Tac UFO?
No.
Off of the coast. I'll have to get you the podcast about the Navy pilots that were trying to follow it. But it was on their radar, and it would go from ridiculous heights, 3,000 feet, to like just several feet above the ocean. Within under a second, it would drop that fast. Yeah,
and I'm not saying a second, but that's sort of erratic up down.
It was nothing, and no propulsion either with that. They couldn't detect any propulsion. No propulsion whatsoever coming from it. No flames, no heat, nothing. Like it's crazy.
And again, I'm willing to accept the fact that our ideas about energy, and human ideas about energy, and human ideas about propulsion, and movement are limited. Mm-hmm. In terms of not just technology, but also thought process.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I'd have
You're actually looking at us like
no, No, I mean, because that's the way Jeff looks at me when I talk about my experiences. That's what I'm saying. I'd have to, just like you with the paranormal, I had to have to experience and see it I don't want to see a picture because pictures can be reconstructed. And just because somebody says, "Oh, I didn't Photoshop this. I didn't do this. I swear, I am in the military. I am a Navy SEAL. I swear to you, I didn't mess with this picture." But okay, fine. I need to see something that I can't explain me.
Right.
And just like if I would have never had a paranormal experience, I'd be the
You'd
same
be
way.
the same
I'm
way.
not going to
Yeah.
believe until I see it. So I'd have to see it for myself. There was one time where I was a little bit scared. I was like, shoot, I said I didn't believe in UFOs and I don't know what's going on. We were at the gym. It was me and Chaz, I believe. Somebody else was out there. It might have been Josh. Anyway, we were out back doing like we had the tires and stuff out back of the Anytime Fitness in South Charleston, and we were doing sledgehammer swings, and it was getting dark. It might have been a little bit lighter than it is, but it was definitely dark outside. And I saw like this white something in this, and I was like, "Did you see that?" And Chaz was like, "What?" And I was like, "Just watch a second." And then it like would flash again, and they would do something like you were saying. It would go from left to right, and it would go a little bit higher, a little bit lower, and I'm like seriously freaking out. Like I even text you. I was like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I think I
And
remember
I
that.
said, check. I was like, see if something's going on because like something there's a white something in the sky, and it wasn't like on a normal pattern. Like it wasn't like a normal pattern. Well, come to find out later that like. I don't know what the grand opening was, but they were testing the lights for the grand opening. But it wasn't like that. You know how they go around and you can like when you're at like Orlando and they have you can sense a pattern. It's like this. It
Right.
was still like
It's
weird.
too erratic.
Yeah, but I guess they were just testing the lights or something that
Yeah.
night. But that's the only time I stopped for a second, and even Chaz was like, "What's going on?"
Some pills make you nervous. Some pills make you small.
I don't understand.
Jefferson Airplane
Oh.
had a song about just wild trips.
Yeah.
Just drugs.
Exactly.
Drugs.
That's and who knows if some of these people seeing this is tripping.
Yeah, you never know. You know what though? I do that. What you're saying though, I totally agree with when it comes to technology and where we're at and where we just if you just think about people that are gone, like my grandfather died in 2002. He wouldn't believe what we're carrying around with us. You know what I mean? It'd be like, unless you live with it, you can't understand how quick technology advances and what what the human race continues to develop when it comes to aircraft and what Elon Musk is doing with these rockets that are not only going into orbit, but they're coming back and landing. We've never had that. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
I'm going to get it wrong, but I think it was 1907, 1906, 1905, somewhere in there, were the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk.
Mm-hmm.
And 100 years later, we have a satellite that has reached, I think it's now beyond Neptune on the way to
crazy.
Pluto. In 100 years.
That's crazy.
If you look at technological advances and you were to plot it on a curve, you would see it go up exponentially.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not a straight line going up.
No, it would be
So-
very even for thousands of years, and then it's just like the last couple hundred years, it's just, and
Yeah,
it's going to continue to because of competition.
Did you ever see the Tom Cruise version of War of the Worlds, the movie?
No.
No?
Mm-mm.
You haven't?
I don't think that's something that would interest me.
It's actually an Orson Welles book from long ago. Do you know the original story? No? It's a great story. Orson Welles, you know Orson Welles. He actually wrote a book, War of the Worlds, and it was about an invasion from outer space. And this is, I'm talking about, I think back in the 20s or 30s. And they had a dramatic presentation of it, I think in New York City or New Jersey, where they did kind of a show about War of the Worlds, almost like it was a play. But people believed it.
Oh.
There was a panic, and people believed there was actually an invasion
Oh, my gosh.
by
I
space
think I
aliens.
do remember hearing about that.
So anyway, I don't know, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, Tom Cruise did a remake, an actual big action movie. And it was fascinating. And spoiler alert, but the But what proved to be the aliens' undoing?
Mm-hmm.
Microbes.
Really?
Microbes. Because do you know what microbe?
What do you mean?
You, me, every human being, the earth, we have microbes. We have trillions upon trillions of one of the smallest living organisms are called microbes.
Okay.
And you have good microbes, you have bad microbes, but the earth is full of microbes. And we as human beings, we have gained immunity to most of the bad effects of microbes. So sometimes they're good effects, or the bad effects that we get sick. But we're used to it. We've gained immunity. But the aliens didn't.
Oh.
So after just a few days, a few weeks, the microbes, like the smallest thing you can't see on Earth, proved to be the undoing of the alien invasion. Yeah, it was absolutely fascinating.
That is fascinating. Microbes.
But again, that was just
War
a
of the
movie.
Worlds. Good
War-
movie.
Worlds.
Watch it. Yeah.
Jeff, you watch that. It's not up my alley. I'm just not into science. I'm not into science fiction movies.
No, you're not.
Except for, what's that science fiction show we watched that's so popular? What the heck's it called? Yeah, it's just recent. And it's obviously...
What happened in it?
Their aliens came and down and abducted that kid.
Seven.
What's her name?
Seven's her name. Yeah, it's
What
on.
what is that show called?
It's on Netflix, right?
Why can't I love that show? Why can't I think of the name?
Is
of
it a show or is it a movie?
It's a series.
No, it's a series. It's like one of the most popular series on Netflix.
Something
Except back in
Things.
Stranger Things.
Stranger
Thank you.
yeah.
Stranger Things.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I haven't seen that. I want to.
I
It's
do
really
like
good,
that. Do I
really
think
good.
that could happen? No, not really.
I think where it's got kind of that 80s feel
But
to it.
is
It's awesome too.
Is that something that you think could happen? Are you that much into
No.
extraterrestrial life?
That is interesting, though. It's interesting because the creature's in another dimension, which
Yeah,
is a thing.
Yeah, that's where.
But I don't know if the creature would. I don't really
It's
buy
the
the creature
slime and the
thing.
creatures.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it actually is a really good show.
But
I
the
actually
concept
enjoyed
of
it.
another dimension is kind of fascinating. You know.
Anyway, so
You have to watch it.
I mean,
Have you ever seen 8mm?
no.
What?
8mm?
I don't
I think it's
so.
called 8mm.
No.
It was actually filmed up in Weirton, or up in the northern panhandle of West
Oh,
Virginia.
really?
Yeah, and it's a sci-fi alien thriller set in like the 50s or so.
Interesting.
And I remember when it was filmed in West Virginia. It was just really, really neat. And it's a good movie, actually.
I mean, there are a lot. I mean, I'm sure there's some good sci-fi movies, but just
Sure,
that's what
yeah.
they are. They're called science fiction for a reason.
But think about it. In addition to entertainment, all of those Stranger Things, War of the Worlds, etc., are all attempts to put into a tangible way the unexplainable.
True.
It is a writer or a team of writers or
True.
production team trying to portray something that we just don't understand and can't explain.
Right, and the
Right.
same thing with writers of the paranormal movies that we were talking about. You know, again, I think it all comes down to people are only going to believe what maybe has happened to them. I don't think that any of us are really gullible enough to believe in something either like a UFO or paranormal activity unless you've actually experienced something that you think is that. You know what I mean?
Unless you're
I'm
just
a
a
gullible
sensationalist
person.
and you love that
I'm-
stuff.
I'm-
You know what I mean?
I'm a very gullible person. You can get me with any practical joke, any stupid joke, tell me, I'll fall for it. But there's certain things I just don't. You know what I mean? And I think that's where you say that I'm tricky.
You are tricky.
But I fall for things that
You don't,
happen to
but
me,
but an
though.
obvious, yeah. But
You
they're
know.
not obvious. The things you fall for aren't obvious.
Yeah.
The things you fall for are you're going to be like, yeah, whatever. That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
So
You're
I'm
more
gonna-
logical about certain things.
Right. I'm an actualist.
And
I
you're
believe.
kind of a contrarian.
I
So if
am a
I'm a
contrarian.
big, so if I go hard in
am.
the
No,
paint,
no, I'm not.
no, I'm not. If I go hard in the paint on UFOs, she's going to immediately be like, "That's BS."
I
like
am a
you're not going to
contrarian.
buy in. You're going to
But
fight
I
me
never
on it.
have bought into UFOs.
So there's a famous
Right,
Monty
right.
Python skit
Yeah.
where you could, the argument department, you go and buy an argument. So a guy walks in, I'd like to buy an argument. That'd be two quid. Puts down 2 quid. So I'd like to buy an argument. No, you wouldn't. Well, yes, I would. No, you wouldn't.
Yeah.
No, I would like to buy an argument. No, you wouldn't. You don't want that.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I do.
You just bought it.
Halfway through the routine, he said, "This isn't argument. You're just being contrary." No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not.
I would put myself in the category. I can be that way. I can, and I'll admit it, but not with
You get it honest.
Not with a UFO thing though. I've always been that way.
You have.
Because I've never experienced it. I don't want to see a picture. I don't want some man in a suit telling me about it. I have to, like Mychal, have seen something that you can't explain.
Hey, boss. 250 G's and I'll abduct the dame over there. Then she'll believe in alien abductions. I guarantee
It's a lot
it.
of money.
You're right. Give me-
Payments.
how about $150?
Done.
Doctor, I'll show her some
Just so
guy's
she'll
mug.
agree with me?
Believe me, she'll think he's an alien. Boom, alien abduction.
Oh, but you know what I'm saying?
So I was gonna say I'm gonna send it to you when I'm finished with this. But on one of the podcasts, one of the many podcasts that I listen to is Hidden Brain, and I'm just finishing up this episode about useful delusions and how we as people we engage in delusions sometimes very knowingly and consciously because they're useful to us. Because and one of the things that helped me, and Angie, something that you said made me think of this, because in a world that's increasingly difficult to understand, in a world that is increasingly divided, complex, things that we can't seem to influence, seem to have such potential devastating effects over us, we, in order to make sense of it and to remain grounded and to just deal with it, we engage in delusions. And so it's an interesting concept about delusions and useful delusions that are really very good for us.
Right.
And something you told me about, whether you believe or not in UFOs or the paranormal, maybe if you do, that may be a useful delusion because something happened to you
Right.
that you can't explain. And the only way to explain what happened to you or what you saw is engaging in perhaps the delusion that there are UFOs
Right.
or paranormal.
No, that's true.
Interesting. Yeah.
That is true.
That would be good.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I know I believe in bourbon. I believe I'm
believe
going to
in
have another
bourbon.
bourbon.
You all should. I'm
Should,
so
definitely.
jealous. I'm so. Maybe
You'll
I just
be-
won't
you'll
take the
be-
other 2 pills and I'll just have wine.
You'll be back soon.
I know. I will be back soon.
You'll
Tuesday.
be back soon.
2 more
Tuesday
sleeps.
is just
2 more
2
sleeps.
more sleeps.
Well, this has been fun.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to hear the UFO story for a while. I've been wanting to hear your take on paranormal activity. And that's interesting.
We've settled it here. There are UFOs and there are ghosts.
So,
take
what
that
did we
to-
say we were going to come back to the debate with Mychal? You said that's a whole nother debate. Oh,
It's probably
the
something
prisons. The prisons on how I think that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Criminal justice prisons?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have
That's
to do
interesting. Because talking about that with an attorney would be interesting.
It would be.
I'm not up for cruel and unusual. That was a little harsh, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
I think
Sure.
just a teaser, so you know what you're dealing with. I think our prisons are way too plush.
And when's the last time you actually went to a prison?
I haven't, but
Okay.
I'm just saying.
But I saw one on TV. I think it was
No,
Miami Vice.
my mom worked at a prison. She's told me about him. My mom was a nurse at the South Central for a while.
And you think that's...
All I know is if you have TVs and you have gyms, you don't deserve that. If you've done something that's wrong,
So let me tell you something.
just say it.
We're getting into this.
When
No, we won't. We'll just
no,
tease
we
it.
won't. But I will
We'll tease
tell you
it.
that one of the more unsettling moments in my life, and I'll put it in the top 25 because I'm that old. Unsettling moments is when the first time I went to South Central to meet a client because it was a criminal appointment, and you walk in. They open the gate electronically. You walk in, and the gate in front of you is closed, and they lock the gate behind you. The sound of that locking while the front one is opening is really unsettling
Oh, I'm sure it is.
because you're locked in.
No, I'm sure that
You cannot leave.
right.
And that's how I explain, criminal justice system. When you're going to take away somebody's liberty, you better prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
I agree with that. I 100%
because
agree with that.
to me, that is one
Because
of the
even
biggest rights you can take away.
Absolutely. And my mom even said, she was like, she would come home and tell us stories, and and we'll talk about more of this when we do it. She would honestly sit down sometimes with tears in her eyes and say, I don't think some of them are guilty. I don't think some of them are guilty. You know what I mean? Because you just have that instinct that they might not be. And that would be horrible to take away what you just said. If they're not one, you better be sure that they are actually deserving the punishment. If they're deserving the punishment, that's a whole different story.
That's why old penitentiaries are such hotbeds of paranormal activity,
Right.
And paranormal investigation.
Because the people may not have been guilty and they go crazy, or what?
Because of the innocence and because of the suffering that goes on there, especially, I'm not talking about today as much as,
Oh, yeah.
50, 75, 100 years ago.
Right. But I don't know. We can debate it. And I'm not a cruel person. I don't want anybody. I mean,
we haven't met. Hi, I'm Mychal.
I'm just saying, if you're in there for hurting a child or murdering someone or something like that, I'm sorry, you don't need to be.
The sad thing is there's people serving. The sad thing is there's people serving time in South Central and prisons worse than that for weed.
Oh, I agree.
That's illegal in a lot of states now.
And that's why those people should be the ones that can watch TV and go to the gym. But if you've murdered somebody or you've hurt a kid, you don't need to go to a damn gym, and you don't get freaking TV, sir.
No, depending on the level of the crime,
Yeah, and punishment should fit the crime. That's all I'm going to say about that. Michael's smirking. See that smirk right there? That is a condescending smirk.
I'm looking at the table. I'm not looking at you.
You were puckering your lips. It's a condescending smirk.
I was going to.
You and Jeff do the same thing.
I was going to try.
Ladies, please, someone come.
I was going to try to kiss you.
You were
and
not.
If Jeff got upset, I was going to say you're delusional.
Well, if you're trying to kiss me,
if
don't
that's just
pucker
a
like that.
Sometimes you need
delusion.
a useful delusion.
He was smirking.
I'm glad because now you're in trouble.
No, Ange, remember you have options.
All right, we will debate this because this would be a good debate. I feel like
he's in the law field and the legal field, so he's probably got all kinds of things stored up to just smack us with.
Oh, here is why it would be a good debate, because he is an attorney. He's very knowledgeable. He's very intelligent, and I'm a simpleton woman.
No, you're not.
She's playing it down.
I'm a simpleton. I don't
you're
know
not.
anything about it. I've never had to serve. I hope I don't. Which who knows? I mean. But I'm just saying,
God, that would be bad to have to come visit you at prison.
Will you wait for me?
I'll wait for you. All
right. Well, it's been fun. We will debate this. I do want to have a little friendly debate about it, because maybe you'll open my eyes, and maybe, I don't know, Michael. Maybe I might open yours, sir.
Oh,
counselor.
Look at that, a little tennis.
Look, he's rubbing his eye. Are you crying?
He just wants another bourbon. That's all he wants. At this point, he's like,
let's go get it.
This is too much.
I don't want my eyes to be open.
Y'all go get another bourbon. I'm going to go get another sparkling water.
Awesome. I'll get it for you.
All right.